I like to produce art that has a sense of mystery, that maybe engages the viewer in a way that makes them say, I wonder what's going on in there, and wonder if, if I peek my head in, what would happen. I think I can pretty much trace it back to when I was a kid, and I had this glow-in-the-dark calendar above my bed. I think it was little cartoon animals with, rockets and bathyspheres and things that, looking up at this thing and wanting to sort of step inside and get lost. It's about the light, and it's about the physical sense of atmosphere. And so maybe they're a little romantic as opposed to classical in composition, but if I had to say there was a unifier, it would be that feeling of getting lost and stepping inside another world. What is this mysterious thing we're talking about? For some reason, I always gravitated towards, what goes on at night. Maybe it's part of being a boy that grew up in Washington State, and at the time, in the early 70s, there was nothing really to say that Bigfoot doesn't exist, because he could, because media wasn't everywhere. And then moving over to New Jersey as a boy, Bigfoot got replaced by the Jersey Devil and living in the Pine Barrens. And I think that type of stuff, that there might be something out there like that there's bigger things at hand in the world than we can know as humans. That's just always been more interesting to me. When I make paintings, what I'm really thinking about isn't the surface and the lushness of the texture. So there aren't many, many layers of preparation. I'm looking to get an image from my mind onto a stationary surface in a way that is as true as possible to what I'm seeing. About 5 years ago, I needed my drawing arm repaired. I just had been, having this persistent shoulder pain, and the surgeon said, we gotta rebuild this sucker. So for the very first time in my life, not having the use of my drawing hand, being employed as a designer, I was out of work, and not being able to either draw for entertainment or draw as a vocation made me really step back and say, what is it I want to do with my life? So I realized I need to sort of get myself in shape, and at the time, there was a painter named Dana Levin, and she had opened up a small atelier and accepted a few students. The school is called the New School of Classical Art. It's basically the boot camp that anyone that learned to paint in the 19th century. You learn this method. It was the 19th century version of Draw Tippy the Turtle. There was nothing subjective about that type of education. It was all entirely, you need to copy this and translate it exactly. It's all training your hand and training your touch and training your eye so that you're recording exactly what you see. I don't particularly find myself in love with the classical mindset or their approach to picture making, but going to this new school and learning this classical atelier, sort of developing a range of high notes that I never knew existed. That was definitely an eye-opener, and it refined my chops. I paint with acrylics, and acrylics seem to suit just about everything that I want to do. I don't think that my work could be described as being challenging. You wouldn't describe it as political. My paintings aren't produced to be confrontational. I absolutely know that my art is unapologetically comfort-based. It's just the way that I'm wired. When I came home and set up my own studio, I took a wine case and covered the inside with black felt, and then cut a little hole in the top and put a light bulb with a dimmer switch. And I started making these little tiny food studies that were about 4 by 6. My wife still jokes about, you can't call them practice paintings, but at the time that's what they were to me. It was just me going in and, once a day sitting down for maybe a half hour, 40 minutes, and really concentrating on making this image, trying to basically go put myself through this boot camp. At the time I wasn't being represented by any galleries, and ironically the things that I thought the least about were the things that were these little food paintings that I was then making every day were the ones that opened doors up to the galleries. I've been painting the food paintings for about 5 years now, and food is just such a wonderful natural part of my life and so many other people's lives that it's a little crazy to me still that this project is still evolving, and every time we move into a new gallery, it sort of catches fire again. The food paintings to me are about the joy of the table. It's about making something or sharing something with a group of people and everyone sitting down and enjoying it. It's almost like a meditation now where I can come in and set up something and really focus on it and start to get back into the rhythm, and it's a little bit of the ritual of laying out the paints and getting the brushes ready and then working on this, and then I could shift to moving on to the farm stuff. The images that I make that are more farm-based, to me they feel like there's a story going on that I'm not even aware of. It's not just that I'm going to paint a cow today. I keep seeing this thing in my head, and it's the image of this cow, and it kind of looks like there's something that's lighting him up from the side. I wonder if that's a car, or if that's light from a barn, or maybe someone lit a bunch of fireworks off, and I'm not even really sure what's happening right now. In the end, I don't think I really want to know how it's being resolved. The food and the farm coming together happened at a really good time for me. I think that my hand is now at the point where it's caught up to my head. I went to the Rhode Island School of Design, and coming to Rhode Island, the sense of scale was a little more intimate, definitely more appealing and more manageable. I don't know that I expected to stick around the way that I've done, but I absolutely love it. I mean, living in between New York and Boston, the accessibility to museums and the accessibility to cultural attractions and that type of energy, the way the city has continued to evolve and provide the things that I love. And I have access to amazing Italian food, or amazing Thai food, or amazing markets. So it's a good mix. With the food images, there's a resolution to them. I know the destination I'm going to wind up at. With the farm, I don't know what I'm going to get, but that's the exhilarating part. Sometimes the pure joy of play turns into a little bit of magic. It's rare enough that you're always after it, and it's rare enough that you make your prayers and you make your works for the hope that when that window opens up, that you're up to the challenge of being part of whatever that dance is. If you think about the components that make an artist, there's a triangle, there's the thing you're physically capable of within your given medium, and then another part of the triangle is what your crouch is, where you're from, what things fed your soul, who your influences were, who your inspirations are, and the things that are coming into the world that light you up. And then the third part of that triangle for me is what you want to tell the world about it. I feel like that's the part in my world that's all really starting to come together. There's not a linear plan in my mind saying, this is how I'm going to script this book out, and in 5 years I want to be here, and in 10 years I want to be here, and I'm going to follow this narrative. It's more like uncovering a fossil where I'm not really sure where it's going or how it's going to all come together, and each one thing starts to uncover the next and open up other little doors. And right now the farm stuff comes out of that. As I paint more images about cows in the field at night being bathed by the glow of a rocket or something, I'm more curious about the world they're all living in. It's not a physical recording of the animal species within the state of Rhode Island and the farmers, but those things certainly inform it. I just don't know how it's all going to come together. It's part of that sense of wonder, and it's just what's driving me right now.